If you that's the end of me having anything, anything to then go and ask.
Wasatiya, is she here?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد. We thank Almighty Allah for giving us an opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Today is Saturday, the 16th day of Jumada al-Ula, 1444 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That also corresponds with the the 10th day of December 2022. Alhamdulillah, as usual, this is a class for Sheikh Hisham, but he's not around, he's traveled. But at least to still engage the brothers from time to time, we need to step in so that these classes can still continue. When you look into the mosque, you realize that we are different kind of people. The Masjid. You have African Americans, you have Africans, we have Indo-Pacs, we have Bangladeshi brothers, we have Arab brothers. This diversity we have in this Masjid, not to exaggerate, but reminds me of the Masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. Where if you go back 1444 years ago in Medina, in the Masjid, you find Bilal, a black man. You find Umar bin Khattab, an Arab. You find Salman, a Persian. You find Suhaib, an European, Rumi, Suhaib al-Rumi, an European, all eating from the same bowl, drinking from the same cup, standing on the same mat. No religion has this in the world. In the history of the world, no religion has this at its inception. That people from different backgrounds, from different colors are there at the beginning of it. That is why Islam is a universal religion. This diversity that we have, the Almighty Allah mentions it in the Quran when He said, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ. Amongst the signs of the Almighty Allah is that He created us from dust. ثُمَّ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ تَنْتَشِرُونَ. After that, He made us into human beings spread across the surface of the earth. The creation of the human being in itself, wallahi, it's a miracle. When you look at yourself in the mirror, wallahi, you realize that truly, truly, you have been perfected. Truly, truly, the one who created you is a master of his own art. You observe birds. Birds have their eyes at this side, at sides. It's only the owl that has his eyes front. Look at where your eyes have been placed. Look at where your nose has been placed. Look at where your mouth is. Imagine if your mouth was here. Imagine if your nose was on your forehead. هو الذي خلقكم فأحسن صوركم. He's the one who created us and then He perfected our creation. If you check the steps through which the Almighty Allah created us in the womb of the mother, look at this womb. A very small, tiny, stuffy place. Some say is 5 centimeters by 7 centimeters by 5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. Very small place, very muscular place. But then you were created in the, and then as you grow bigger, this place, bulges and expands. And even if she falls down, you're not hurt. And then on the day that you're going to give birth to it, all due respect, look at the womanhood of a woman, and they say a whole human being came out of that place. That is why the Almighty Allah said, ثُمَّ السَّبِيلَ يَسَّرَ. Even the day that you're going to come to the dunya, it is He, the Almighty Allah, who willed it and made it easy for you to come. The pelvic region of your mother has to become very soft. Otherwise, those bones over there will choke your neck and then you will die before coming out. The Almighty Allah will make a very, slippery fluid to flow out of her first. When the amniotic bag bursts, it comes out with some water, so that when you are coming out, you come out slippery and easy. And then when you come out too, you start crying. If you don't cry, the next will have to just slap your bottom, pop, pop, and then you start crying, yeah. And then they are happy. Oh, mashallah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. You are crying, but they are happy. This reminds me of, us sending, a condolence message to our brother Muftah, the muazzin of Friday who lost his mother. Wallahi, it's not easy. Those of us who still have our mothers, Allah is a ni'mah, is a blessing. Because mothers, and together with fathers, are the gateway to our Jannah. A companion came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, man ahaqqun nasi bi husni sahabati. In the whole world, who do you think deserves my best of companionship? And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, your mother. He said, Ya Rasulullah, after her, who next? He said, your mother. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I've held my mother twice. After her, who else? He said, your mother, 3 times. On the 4th time, he said, your father. You see, we've come to a point in time that we love our wives so much that our wives become second to our mothers. Our mothers become second to our wives. Wallahi, that's a disaster. You can have only one mother. The day she dies, they will say your mother is dead. But as for wives, you can change them anytime you want. Not to encourage divorce, that's what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to make a point. They can say this is your ex-wife, but it can never be said this is your ex-mother. She's above that categorization. So Allah, those of us who have our mothers alive, even if they are not Muslim, we owe them that respect. We owe them that companionship. We owe them that love, that care. Almighty Allah said, وَإِن جَاهَدَكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. The Almighty Allah said, if your parents, even if they are not Muslims, and then they are arguing with you, debating with you, trying to pull you from Islam into kufr or doing something that is wrong, فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. Don't obey them there. وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. But then be kind and good with them, even in their kufr. I always give this example. There's a man back home in Ghana who is like a second father to me. He's called Alaji Elephant. A.A. Sadiq. His name is Alaji Abubakar. And he's a herbalist. He sells his herbal products. He's a revet, actually. I stayed in his house when I was in high school and then university because it was in a different city. His mother was not a Muslim, but she was staying in his house. He told his mother she's not going to stay anywhere. His mother she didn't like the idea of him being a Muslim. She didn't like it. But she realized that in all her kids, he was the one who had the utmost respect for her, the utmost care for her. So eventually she moved and then she was staying in his house. He did everything for her. He provided everything for her. He gave her the best of things. And eventually the Almighty Allah willed his way. She passed away without accepting Islam. But if I'm going to give an example of a person who is a Muslim, but his parent was not, but then he gave her the utmost care and respect that I saw in 20 years, I always mention his name first. And that thing that he did, or he does, or he did, I believe was form of the barakah that the Almighty Allah was sending upon him. So the fact that we might have our parents not to be Muslims, that doesn't mean that we should talk bad at them, or no. That's just to digress. So our creation is the same. It doesn't matter whether you were born in Indonesia, or you're born in Africa, or you're born in America. You go through the same process everybody goes through. In the next few verses, the Almighty Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. Amongst the signs of the Almighty Allah is the creation of the heavens and the earth. And then the differences we have in our pigments and then in our tongues. Wallahi. If you look at us, some of us are dark skinned. But even within the dark skin, you can see there are different pigments in there. Some of us are light skinned. Even within the light skin, you can find that there are different pigments in there. Those who are white skinned, even within that white skin, you can find that some of them are yellowish in color, some of them are whitish in color, some of them are reddish in color. Sometimes the person is white, but when he's angry, he becomes red. When he's sick, he becomes blue. Like 2 days ago, when I was in the hospital for visitation, a man was taken from the emergency to the ward. Wallahi, his color was yellow, like this scarf of mine. Yellow. He was sick and yellow. When I say yellow, it's yellow. So the differences we have in our tongues and the differences we have in our color is a sign from the Almighty Allah. And the differences we have in our thinking processes and then the ideologies that we have is also, wallahi, a sign from the Almighty Allah. We have different languages. We're collating some data for the masjids and we counted almost 10 different languages in this masjid. 10 different languages. And these differences in the languages that we have, or the ideologies that we profess, or the differences that we have in the colors that we have, in the pigments that we have, is a sign from the Almighty Allah. This is a proof that the Almighty Allah is a master at His own art. That He brings us all out, we look the same. same eyes. Nobody has 3 eyes. Have you met someone who has 3 eyes before? No. We all have 2 eyes. We all have 2 nostrils. We all have 2 lips. We have 2 legs. We have 2 arms. That's who we are. We have the same heart. Your heart is not different shape from mine. All of us. It will get to a point whereby I might fall sick and then you will have to donate to me an organ from you. I might be black and you might be white, but your organ will fix me. Like it's a sign from the Almighty. But the question arises. The fact that we are different in color, the fact that we are different in the languages we speak, the fact that we are different in the political ideologies we profess, the fact that we are even different from the religions that we practice, and the fact that we are even different from the sects that we belong to within the religion, or the fact that we even differ from the types of madhab we follow in the fiqh within the religion, does it mean we must fight? Does it mean that we must always disagree? Because I have a different color from you doesn't mean that that is an offset or onset or a reason to always disagree. That so long as this is your color, if you bring anything, it is wrong. I must always fight you. Unfortunately, this is what the world is breeding into us. Unfortunately, this is the ideology that some people, because they want to rule the world, they always put in place these ideologies between us, and then you find out that we're always quarreling and fighting. You know, we live in the times whereby we say no to racism, but in effect what we mean is let's go on with the racism. And we got to a point whereby we say no to racism, we put it on top of whatever pulpits we stand upon. But then systematically, some other people will always be under the radar, will always be checked, will always, whatever they do is always wrong. Of course, I'm not saying that we're going to live in a world whereby whatever we say to each other is yes, agree. No, we will disagree, whether we like it or not. But then, what is the adabul ikhtilaf? What is the manners in disagreeing? You can bring up an ideology. I can bring up an ideology, but then I think it's the main. Yeah, check. The microphone wants to disagree with me. The microphone is disagreeing.
The camera too.
Oh, he doesn't. Oh, yeah.
Which camera? Mine? This
one.
one. He's also disagreeing. Let's go on with manpower. The Sahaba didn't use any microphones. At least we can hear. So we can disagree. We can be at a meeting and disagree. But then, what are the manners that Islam taught us when it comes to, disagreeing with each other? What are the manners that Islam taught us in living peacefully and coexisting with each other? Whether you like it or not, we come to the masjid, someone will unintentionally or intentionally step on your toes. Whether you like it or not, when we come to the masjid, someone will make a statement that you are not comfortable with. Unintentionally. Sometimes you come to the masjid, the tone that someone might use with you might be disrespectful. Not even in the masjid, even in your own home, even with your own wife. She might be joking with you, but you will take it serious. Sometimes you are just cracking a joke and then you see her face turn red. Especially when you say you want to. I didn't say that. You are the ones who are saying it. You see the face has turned upside down. So these are day-to-day activities that we're going to have these differences. Even the tongue and the teeth are together all this while, but they have differences. Sometimes when the food is very, very tasty, the teeth will forget and then bite the tongue. How do we mitigate this? How do we go about this within the framework of the Sharia? We're Muslims. Some people are not Muslims. How do we deal with them? How do we relate with them? Especially living in a cosmopolitan world now, whereby the global village has opened up the borders of the world to each other. We no longer have countries or empires that say, this is the Muslim empire, or this is the Christian empire, or this is the Hindu empire. No, it's no longer like that. The world has moved on. So how do we live within that framework? And when you come even within Islam itself, the different sects that we have, how do you relate with each other? All these things are important points that we need to understand and know and find solutions to that. The whole world is crumpled upon Qatar now. The whole world. We are not soccer fanatics, but then there is a lot of lessons to pick from that. How can a country in the Middle East can host the World Cup? And then we want to impose upon them because some people feel they are the custodians of morality. What they say is moral. What other people say is not. Let me tell you, the simple fact is that it's because Qatar is a Muslim nation, and that's it. That's it. That's all. So, how do we go about this? The Almighty Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O you humanity, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ خَبِيرٌ. Some of the scholars say the reason behind why the Almighty Allah revealed this verse was that a slave who always come to the masjid to pray behind the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the time. One day the Prophet did the salam and then he turned and then he didn't see him. He asked, where is Fulan? That was how consistent the Prophet Muhammad was. After salam, when he turns, he just skims through the masjid to see who is there or who is not there. And the absence of a slave caught the attention of the Prophet Muhammad. He said, where is Fulan? He said, Ya Rasulullah, he's sick. Get up, guys, let's go visit him. They went in and they visited him. And then it happened that at that time, Malakul Maut has entered to take the life of the slave. And the Prophet Muhammad gave him talqeen of La ilaha illallah. And the slave mentioned La ilaha illallah and died. And the Prophet himself washed him and shrouded him and buried him. And the hypocrites in Medina were like, so now Muhammad doesn't have any business, just slaves. What kind of religion is this? Slaves. And Almighty Allah revealed the verse, Ya ayyuhan nas, O you humanity, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. We have created you from a male and a female. Whether you are a slave or a son, whether you are white or black, you are born from a male and a female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا. And then we created you into nations and tribes. Nations and tribes. Different language, especially now. It's quite astonishing that we're speaking about this in a masjid like this, where we have this diversity, this cosmopolitan, people here. Everybody is here, and you all get along. It's only when you speak that I'm able to know from your accent that you are from here, but we always all look alike. This morning we went for breakfast with a couple of African American fathers and grandfathers. Well, it was beautiful. I enjoyed it. You know, the accent, the African American accent, it comes with a swag, man. You know, it's very fluent, very fluid. I loved it. Especially the old men, and then, you know, the language, you know, it's like they're not breathing. They speak. It was very beautiful. And we're fortunate enough to meet one Imam. I remember his name is Sheikh Abdul Karim. He accepted Islam in the 50s. And then he's still strong, going on with his walking stick. So he accepted Islam in 1950. I was like, 1950? Who were in Jannah waiting in the queue to come to the earth. We're still waiting to come. You see, this beautiful, you know, environment and this community, diversity, but all of us were born from a male and a female. And there were nations and tribes. Those of us who come from the other continents. Okay, almost everybody comes from another continent. Of course. Because I don't think there are Native Americans here. Everybody's a visitor in America. If you are not, your grandfather might be. If it's not your grandfather, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather might be. But if you observe, what I'm trying to say, if you observe the world, even, for example, if you take Africa as an example, you come to West Africa, you have all these different languages, all these different people, and we are epitomized here in the Masjid. Nations and tribes, and then we speak different languages. When it is family lines, you bring different foods, and then you go into the city, you go to different restaurants, you taste, you know, Caribbean food, you taste, you know, African food, you taste Indian food, you taste all this. The Almighty Allah says, later arafu, so that we'll be able to know each other and then recognize each other. To know each other, to understand each other, to understand the African American culture, to understand the Bangladeshi culture, to understand the Arab culture, to understand the African culture, to know that. And then this thing by Islam exposes us that as Muslims, we are the most learned people on the surface of the earth because we see all this diversity and all this difference. Malcolm X makes this statement when he went to Hajj, when he saw the different people who come to meet in Mecca. And then he said that America's racial problem can be solved if America accepts Islam. Because Islam solves this racial problem. Because the moment I say Assalamu alaikum to you, that's it. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are. When I say Assalamu alaikum, you understand the language. Recently, a Nigerian pastor was making a statement that Nigerian Christians think they can defeat Islam, they should forget about it. And he himself was an ex-Muslim. He himself is an ex-Muslim, and then he became a Christian and he became a pastor. And then he said the reason being, one day the senior pastor sent him somewhere. As he was traveling, it was late at night. So he looked for a church to sleep in the church so that the following morning he will continue with his travel. He knocked and then the pastor opened. Who are you? He said, I'm a stranger, I'm a pastor like you. I need a place to spend the night. So that tomorrow morning I'll continue. He said, no, I have no room for you here. He said, okay, you open the church for me so that I sleep in the church. He said, no way, I'm not going to open. Go. He sacked him. And this guy, he looked for a mosque. He knocked. He said, Salamu alaikum. And then the Imam opened. Bismillah, come in. Have a seat. Sit down. Do you want fura? He gave him food to eat. And then he gave him a mat to sleep. He slept. He said, before 5 a.m., Fajr, I know the time for Fajr. I woke up, I packed my things. Before the Imam would realize I'm not a Muslim, I'm gone. This is the beauty that Islam comes with. That irrespective of your skin color, irrespective of what is in your head, but the moment you say you are a Muslim and Assalamu alaikum, that's it. All the barriers are broken. All the obstacles are cleared. You become a member of the family. You become a member of the family, and that's it. That is why I always say this, that the differences that we have in the Muslim world can be mitigated. Especially if you look at the Sunnah Shia divide. I'm not saying all Sunnis convert to Shia or all Shia convert to Sunni. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not going to happen. Right? It's a fact. It's not going to happen. And then let's sit on the same table to discuss how to merge. It's not going to happen too. That's also a fallacy. Because if your aqidah is that after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ali is supposed to be the leader, and Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman all usurped Ali's right to be the leader of the Muslim world, I'm not going to believe in this. We're not going to agree on this. But then, leave and let's leave. That's it. Do your Shiism, just do it. Let me do my Sunni. And that's it. If you're going to have a dialogue or a debate, fine. Those who want to have the debate, let them go have the debate. Those who want to go and have the dialogue, let them go have the dialogue. But then if it gets to a point whereby we draw knives to kill each other, then that's something different. And that's painful. Because currently, the Muslim world is in a turmoil because we don't want to agree to live peacefully. Islam teaches us to live peacefully with everybody. Unless the person attacks us, then we are required to defend ourselves. But then, some Muslims who shout Allah Akbar and enter a mosque and kill other Muslims who are also saying Allah Akbar. And with this one, it's not Sunni Shia divide. I only brought the Sunni Shia divide as a broader context in terms of the differences that we have. But even within Shia, you have this. Within Sunni, you have this. Why is it so? Sometimes you realize this masjid is a Sunnah masjid, but then they don't speak to this Sunnah masjid. Why? Sometimes we are Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Yes, these guys, they are Ahlul Sunnah, but they are wal Jama'ah. That's a problem. The diversity that we have. I'm not saying that every sect is right. I'm not saying every ideology is right. No, that's not what I'm saying. But all I'm saying is that at least let's have some coexistence, that what you are saying, bring evidence to it. What I'm saying, let me bring evidence to it. Let the intellect and then the intellectuals work. It's not about shouting and screaming. It's about knowledge working. But unfortunately, we realize in the Muslim world now that the scholars are not talking, but only the Facebookers are the ones who are speaking. Those who have access to, internet, and they are the ones causing a lot of fitna within the Muslim Ummah. People do not listen to the scholars now. They don't listen to people like me who always have Facebook, and that's the problem. Number one point. When I disagree with you, why am I disagreeing with you? What is my intention in disagreeing with you? Is it because of the dunya? Or it's really, really between myself and the Almighty Allah? Husn niyyah. What are our intentions when we disagree, not only in the deen, but in day-to-day activities? When we come to a meeting, and then you bring a point, why am I countering your point? Is it because that I believe that it is not viable, but my point is viable? Or I just want to disagree with you? I want to disagree with you because you are not from the same clan with me, or you're not from the same country as me, or you're not from the same tribe as me. This is eating the Muslim Ummah. Nepotism and favoritism and tribalism is something that is killing the Ummah. Or we are so and so. We don't marry these people. That's also another cancer that we have. No, we don't marry so and so people. We marry so and so people. No, for us, we are so and so. These people, no, we don't marry them. It's eating us. And everywhere you go, there is this, this underground caste system whereby we are first class Muslim citizens, and these people, you don't understand, maybe their great grandfather was so and so, and all kinds of historical nonsense. What's my intention for being, different from you? Husnul niyya. Wallahi. If I differ with you on a point, wallahi, my niyyah should be clear with Almighty Allah. Not for any human gains. Secondly, I should respect the person that I am disagreeing with. Yes, you respect the person. Wallahi, even if the person is worshipping a goat, respect the person. The Almighty Allah says, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Do not insult those who call others than the Almighty Allah. Lest those people insult Allah عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ, out of anger and spite and out of ignorance. We don't ridicule people in Islam. If someone is doing something that we believe is wrong, if someone is into idol worship, we call their minds and then their attention to what they are doing. We don't mock them. I always believe that if you are interacting with someone that you disagree with, touch their conscience and not their emotions. If you touch their emotions, you're not going to get them again. You just become angry. And then the thing will escalate into a fight. But then if you touch their conscience, they'll be forced to think. That is why the Almighty Allah in the Quran, anytime He's speaking, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَتَذَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Why don't you think? Why don't you reflect? Why don't you look deeper? Why don't you sit down and reflect? But no, for us now, when we differ with someone, oh, you are going to Jahannam. Straightforward. You are a kafir. You are a mushrik. I'm not saying there are no kuffars. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there are no munafiqs. There are munafiqs. I'm not saying there are no mushriks. They are mushriks. But then, what is the Quran's methodology in dealing with these people? Look at what the kuffar of Makkah did to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But look at the message of the Quran to them. In general, look at what kuffar did to the prophets of the Almighty Allah. Look at Fir'aun. Look at Fir'aun. And how Fir'aun behaved. No matter how sinful you are, you will never commit the sin of Fir'aun. You know why? When Musa spoke to Fir'aun and then he gave him the message, Fir'aun was almost convinced. But he told Musa, let me consult with my prime minister, Haman. That is why it's always good to have a good companion who you are always having good conversations with. And then he said, Haman, Musa came here. You remember him, that small boy who was in my house, who I took care of him all these years. Now he said he's a prophet. That Allah sent him to me to come and tell me that there is a God apart from me. There is a God. So, okay. What did he say? He said that if I worship the Almighty Allah, I will still maintain my kingdom in the dunya. And in the akhirah too, I will get another kingdom. Don't you think that is a win-win situation? And then Haman told him, it's not a win-win situation. He said, why? He said, you are our God. Why will you go and worship another God? And then Pharaoh said, Haman, you are a very smart man. Musa would have deceived me easily. In the end, what did he say? He said, don't worry. When Musa comes tomorrow, tell him that yes, you agree that there's a God. But that God is a lesser one. You are the big one. حشر فنادى فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى. This is what Pharaoh said. Pharaoh said, yes, I've heard there is a God, but that God is a smaller God. I am the big one. Apart from Pharaoh, have you ever heard anybody say he is God? No. But then what did the Almighty Allah tell Musa? فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Speak to him in a very soft, understanding tone, so that he will reflect, or he might even fear the Almighty Allah. Look at Ibrahim and his father. When the Almighty Allah was giving us the story, Ibrahim was speaking to his father. Ya abati, oh my father, oh my father, oh my father. And what's the response of the father? Aragibun anta an alihati ya Ibrahim. Are you trying to, differ or move away or distance yourself from my gods? If you don't stop this nonsense that you are doing, I'm going to stone you. Wahjurni maliya, leave me alone. But Ibrahim was still speaking to him in a soft and in a nice voice. Wallahi, if we want to bring people closer to Islam, we need to find strategies from the Quran and Sunnah as to how to deal with that. If you want to bring people who are onto Bid'ah, onto Sunnah, we need to find beautiful ways to bring them onto Sunnah. It's not about screaming and shouting at them or calling them names. And with all due respect, this is the cancer of modern day, especially Sunni students of knowledge. Yes, Alhamdulillah, Almighty Allah has guided us to the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are people who are on Bid'ah, there are people who are on Shirk. How do you call them? How do you bring them? It's something we need to look at. What strategies? What's the message in the Quran? How do we sit with them and talk to them? How do we bring them? It's very, very important. It's not only about, the solution is not only about sending them to Jahannam or sending them to hellfire. That's not the solution. The solution is thinking of how to correct their thoughts and aqidah and understanding. That's how you do that. I always reminded by this statement by Al-Asim Al-Hakim, when he was asked a question, that I have a neighbor who doesn't come to the Masjid regularly. What is the ruling on this neighbor? And Al-Asim said the ruling on this neighbor is that bring him to the Masjid. That's the ruling on this neighbor. Bring him to the Masjid. That's the ruling. Which is convince him and send a message to him that will soften his heart and let him understand that he needs to come to the Masjid. There are a lot of people like that who need the message. They need the antivirus. They need the antidote for them to understand. Some people are practicing Islam based on what their grandfathers and great-grandfathers practiced, not because it is what Islam is. And this kind of person, you cannot force and turn him 160 by force to come be on the right path. No. It's important we devise strategies, especially the languages that we use with each other as Muslims. Whether the person is on bid'ah, whether the person is on shirk, whether the person is doing fawahish, whether the person is doing ma'asiyah, we need to find ways to bring them closer to the Almighty Allah, not push them away further. Because if I always use a harsh language on you, you won't want to listen to me. But then if I find languages that are nice and soft and understanding, you will come closer to me. There is this Utbah to Ibn Rabi'ah, Abul Walid. One day he came to the Makkans, and then he asked them, what is your problem with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He's a Confucian guy. Muhammad has destroyed our Makkan community. And he said, okay, no problem. Have you debated with him? Have you had a dialogue with him? They said, no. He said, leave me. I'm going to dialogue with him. Don't worry. Today, Muhammad is over. I'm just going to defeat him. And actually, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah was one of the orators of the kuffar. He went to the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he knocked. And the Prophet asked, who is it? He said, it's Utbah ibn Rabi'a. And the Prophet said, Abu Walid. When they want to respect someone, or part of their respect to people is that they call them by their kunya. And the kunya is, they don't call the person by his first name. They always call him by the name of his son. So the father of so and so. The father of, so the Prophet's kunya was Abu Qasim, the father of Qasim. So the Prophet didn't call him Utbah, straightforward, he called him Abu Walid, a sign of respect. Even though this guy is a non-Muslim. But then because he's an elderly person in the community, he's a revered person, the Prophet Muhammad accorded him that respect. And wallahi, we need to take that adab. Sometimes you find some student of knowledge, because they disagree with a sheikh who is old enough to be their grandfather, they call him all kinds of names. A sheikh who has spent 60 years of his life, 50 years of his life. For example, the Imam I met today this morning, who accepted Islam in the 50s, 1950. Let's even take it, accepted Islam 1950, 1960, 10 years, 1970, 20 years, 1980, 30 years, 1990, 40 years, 2000, 50 years, 2010, 60 years, 2020, 70 years. 70 years. This man is practicing Islam. And then I come and I say, hey. That is why, if you realize now, the old men are refusing to die. We, the younger ones, we are dying. There is no barakah in our lives now. It's just a jargon. The Almighty Allah is extending their lifespan. But anytime you hear someone is dead, 23, 25, 35, 40. But those who are 50, 60 and above, they are not dying. Because there is no more barakah in our lives now, we the younger ones. We disrespect everybody. Let me tell you, there are some old men, if you speak bad about them, you are killing yourself. There are some people who are God's servants. They are servants of the Almighty Allah. You don't talk bad about them. I'm not saying that they are saints or they don't do bad things. No. That's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that if you see someone with gray hair, it's not easy. It's not easy. If you see someone who is about 60, 70, 80, it's not easy to be on this earth 60 years, 70 years. They've seen a lot of things. They've heard a lot of things. They've passed through a lot of things. So those of us, the 20, 25, 30-year-old guys and 40-year-old guys, wallahi, let's be very careful. Especially those of us who think we've read one or two books and then we think that, hey, now we are weak. So we'll just look into the face of an old man and then say just anything to them. No. Barakah now, blessing, mercy in our lives, wallahi, has been reduced. So someone has this vast, experience in life. And then you see him and then, no, he's this. No. You're killing yourself. So Utbah said, the Prophet said, come in. He entered and then he said, Ma waraka ya Abul Walid? What brings you to my house, Abul Walid? Have a seat. And then he sat down. He said, Muhammad, I came with some few proposals. What is it? He said, if it is money that you want, let us know. We'll gather all the money in the community and then give it to you, make you the wealthiest man in Makkah. Even if you want to be a chief or a king, let us know. We will distill everybody and make you the only king of Makkah without any rival. If it is a woman that you want, let us know. Whose daughter, whoever's daughter she is, we'll get her for you. And if you have a problem here too, you are sick, let us know. We'll look for the best doctors to take care of you. This is an insult. And the Prophet told him, are you done, Ya Abul Walid? He said yes. He said, Isma, listen. And the Prophet recited to him Surah Fussilat. When the Prophet finished, the Prophet told him, I'm done. Do what you want to do. Abu Walid left the things that his head from the Quran kept ringing in his mind and his ears and his heart. As he was going back to the people of Makkah, Abu Jahl saw him from afar. He said, guys, we've lost the debate. He said, why? He said, look at him. He left here very confident he's going to defeat Muhammad. But he's coming back as if rain has beaten a chicken. We've lost the debate. When Utbah came in, they asked him, what happened? How did it go? He said, لَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ مِنْ مُحَمَّدٍ قَوْلًا لَمْ أَسْمَعْ مِثْلَهُ قَطْ. I've heard right now from Muhammad some words I've never ever heard their like before. مَا هُوَ بِشِعْرٍ. It's not poetry. It's beyond human creation. A human being cannot create those words. But listen, Kufar, listen. دَعُوا الرَّجُلَ وَمَا هُوَ فِيهِ. You see Muhammad, leave him alone. Don't touch him. إِنْ يَظْهَرْ عَلَى الْعَرَبِ فَمُلْكُهُ مُلْكُكُمْ وَعِزُّهُ عِزُّكُمْ. If Muhammad overpowers the Arabs, then his kingship and his might and his dominance will be yours too. But if the Arabs overpower him, then they've done a job for you that you already wanted to do, but don't do it. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah kept quiet. He never spoke about Islam again until the Battle of Badr. When he came out and he said, but aren't you a supporter of Muhammad? He said, no, I'm not a supporter of Muhammad. I've not accepted his religion. But I think that guy has something great in front of him. And they said, but we are going to war against him. He said, I'm not going to war against Muhammad. You are my people, Quraysh. You are going to war. So I'm following you to war. It doesn't matter whoever you are fighting. Since you are my people, you are going to war. I'm going to war with you. It doesn't matter whether it is Muhammad or anybody. And he was killed in that war. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that Utbah ibn Rabi'ah didn't accept Islam. But then he went back to the kuffar of Makkah trying to defend Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is Thumamah ibn Usal, Sayyidu Yamama. He was a bounty hunter. His job was finding Muslims and then killing them. That was his job. One day the Sahaba captured him. And then they brought him to Medina, and then they brought him to the Masjid. And then they tied him in one of the pillars of the Masjid. And they told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, we have captured Thumamah. He said, okay. Have you given him food? He said, Ya Rasulullah, we said we've captured Thumamah. And you are speaking about giving him food. He said, yes. Give him food. You give him food. The Prophet came and he said, Ma wara'aka ya Thumamah. Thumamah, what brings you here today? And Thumamah said, what brings me here? It is these your boys who captured me and brought me here. Now you're asking me what brings me here. Hey, listen, Muhammad, let me be very plain with you. In taqtul that.